welcome back to The Climb. Today, I have two special guests here with me, patriots that I had the pleasure of serving at Combat Connect with. And I'm going to go ahead and let you two introduce yourselves. I am so happy to have you all here today.
Well, thanks, Manny. It's great being here. Not gonna lie, not gonna sugarcoat anything today. I'm gonna talk off the cuff, and I'll let you know in advance that I'm a little bit nervous to be here. This is my first podcast, so it's an honor that you invited us here today. Um, I like to introduce ladies first. Jessica is amazing professional. Been with Combat Connect since 2021, and she's been on our advocacy team, um, helping with our clients, provide them with the best services that we can. So she's very modest, and I have a little bit of a spiel I like to say about her, and then I'll turn it over to her to follow up on. Um, Jessica is a vital part of Combat Connect's advocacy team. Jessica is the longest tenured connector on the functional side of the house. We do have um, Scott Palumbo, Commander Palumbo, aka Snowflake, if you remember him, still on the board of directors, and he actually beat her by 4 days. So, but she started, like I said, in 2021, October, I believe, and she has spent several years working directly with veterans and their families. Jessica's unique experience allows her to bridge the gap between military and civilian services, ensuring our veterans receive comprehensive support. Jessica, please introduce yourself.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure. Um, my name is Jessica. I'm a social cognitive expert. I have a pretty extensive clinical background spanning across many different um, specialties, including trauma, victim services, survivor services, family systems, serving neurodivergent populations, and um, when I'm not working with Combat Connect, I own and operate my own consulting firm and advocacy organization for education services. Um, and so I that's my intro, nothing too special.
Of course you're special. And you didn't mention your dad is a retired Marine major.
Yes, my father did serve in the Marine Corps. And so I'm sure that's relatable to many people that grew up in a family with a service member, specifically a Marine. So that's always a good time.
Thanks, Jessica. And you can introduce me now. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. Um, so I'm Doc Doherty. I'm the Chief Programs Officer for Combat Connect and the founder as well. Um, I was a cop, Orange County um, Sheriff's Deputy from 2006 to 2020, and then I medically retired due to mental health challenges that I'll share with later in this dialogue in this podcast. And I served in the United States Air Force, um, including reserve officer training time, and I was in at the University of Central Florida. I was in from 2001 to 2016, and that was all reserve time. And I was really fortunate. I did one deployment out of all those years, and it was a great experience. But it's not. I didn't have the same level of experience that our fellow warriors have, you know. And even though I went to a combat zone, I don't consider myself a combat veteran by any means. As a veteran and former cop, I believe that I bring a wealth of firsthand experience having served in the Air Force as a cyber officer. With my understanding of the challenges that veterans face, I have made it my mission to create resources and networks that help veterans transition and thrive in civilian life. And back to you, Manny.
All right. Well, thank you both for introducing yourselves. I do actually have one quick question. It actually kind of came to me a mixture of the veteran mindset, a mixture of both of your experiences. and kind of something that I've actually been playing with a little bit in my mind. It's kind of the difference between mental strength and mental health. I think that there are some nuances and differences. And Jessica, I'm really curious about kind of your opinion on the differences there and how they affect people differently depending on kind of the situation they're in.
Sure. So I think that's a great question and a very important conversation. I think, well, the way I would frame this question is through the lens of identity and how you're showing up and what that role looks like. So mental strength, if we're thinking about veterans, first responders, or just anybody in general, you're trained for a specific performance measure and to meet specific requirements of that role. And our identity has several different parts. So mental strength in our roles shifts depending on what's required of us in that moment and what we need to produce, what the outcome needs to be. Mental health honors the human condition, who we are, what we experience, how we feel it, how we process, how we don't process, and what we take away, what resonates as we live and exist among others in the social landscape and in the realm of our whole self rather than just the markers of points in time in our life where we need to be mentally strong. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that really connects with me as far as partially like the true goal of Combat Connect. One of the biggest parts is Combat Connect was always supposed to be something holistic where it was all encompassing, having those four pillars where you had your advocacy, you had career, finance, having all these backings to create something whole to help the veterans as opposed to piecemealing out things that kind of help them out. Mental health being a huge aspect of that. And Chris, this one's for you. I'm really curious where is Combat Connect right now? Unfortunately, like I said, I'm not with the company right now. I can't say I moved on to bigger and better things, but I did end up parting with Combat Connect, and I would love for you to just give us a quick snapshot of where you're at.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, Manny, and as you know already from all the discussions we've had over the last 5 years or so, I think by now, um, I had my struggles in life, and I'm super, super excited to where Combat Connect is today. We were founded in 2020, October, actually December, excuse me. Um, but in the last 5 years, we've grown into a really amazing organization. We have a lot of moving parts still, and there's a lot of projects to be done. Um, However, I believe wholeheartedly that we are providing the best services possible for our clients, whether they be organic, as you mentioned, or if we're outsourcing it or providing referrals to organizations that share the same values and mindset and mission, to provide, again, exceptional services for our clients, which is our beloved veterans and emergency services personnel. So, I, I'm going to tell your audience here today that, you know, when I medically retired from the sheriff's office in 2020 October, it was not expected. I was pretty much, I consider myself I ambushed myself. So, um, I had what I understand today is long-term PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, for those that don't know what that means. And I'm really happy to see that PTSD is finally being taken seriously, um, with the Affairs folks, and also in the law enforcement and fire rescue, etc. community. But back in 2020, it uh it was not really seen as a on the job injury, if you will, um, like it is today. So, unfortunately, I was diagnosed after talking with a few clinicians and a few assessments, diagnosed with a myriad of mental health challenges. Um, and I'm more than happy to share them with you now because I believe that our audience here today should see that I have had my struggles, but I've had the ability to overcome and adapt through that hard time. But yeah, I was diagnosed. The biggest one is schizoaffective disorder, which is pretty much schizophrenia, but on a smaller scale, more crisis occasional oriented. Um, then I was diagnosed with bipolar mania, depression moderate, anxiety moderate, and PTSD, and lastly insomnia. And when I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I've got, I can count on my two hands how many diagnoses that I have. But um, to answer your question primarily, Combat Connect, I'm really proud to say that we have 58 connectors nationwide now, including one in Colombia, who's the retired chief, who's actually Jessica's leader, uh, and he's the director of advocacy. Um, Great guy. And the we just onboarded our 30th client yesterday, um, which is pretty cool. It's great to help out 30 people. That's nowhere near where I thought we would be today. And we are a lot more capable of taking on more clients. Um, However, we relaunched in January after we took essentially 2 years off. Um, one year was because I was stuck in Florida, and you were the CEO back then, and then you can recall, my attendance with meetings was pretty good, but I couldn't get any projects done, right? Yeah, I drove you crazy. So, and then when I returned to Delaware, I took a year off because I unfortunately had a major depressive um period and then I was able to get further clinical services to help navigate that. And then my New Year's resolution was to start Combat Connect again, and since January, really, we launched our services again in February, but I'm really happy and really pumped to say that we've helped 16 people since then. So, um, really happy about that. That was a long answer, right?
Yeah. No, but that's great. And Chris, I truly do want to give you your flowers. I want to say that entrepreneurship is extremely difficult for anyone. Like anyone in any situation, if you're trying to build something from nothing to solve a problem, to help a pain point, to be of service to something, it's extremely difficult. And tons of companies, tons of people fail at it. And I want to give you your flowers because you've truly never given up. Like, it doesn't matter how much time passes, it doesn't matter if there are lapses in it, it doesn't matter that you have crappy days. Like, you're still on the mission, you're still directionally right. And I want to say that's really impressive. And I truly do want to give you your flowers for that.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. And I just to kind of share it out with everyone right now, what's the current service structure for Combat Connect? Like if someone wanted services, what would they be reaching out to you guys for?
Well, our services, we have a plethora of services, which drives my chief executive officer crazy, Captain Joe Liddell. And I remember, I think I drove you a little crazy with all the services that we had as back in the days too. But my whole vision for Combat Connect is, as you already stated, Manny, to be kind of a one-stop shop and have a lot of organic services so our clients don't have to navigate through all the different organizations that are out there. So, as you mentioned, we have our four pillars. personal development, which is the most important, the foundation of the organization. We are a faith-based organization that believes in sharing the love of Christ through what we say and do. Um, however, we open up our doors to our clients and our connectors, those who are on the team, um, with different perspectives, whether they be spiritual, um, and or and when I say spiritual, I'm talking like Hawaiian culture, um, the Native American culture, that kind of stuff. Um, if you're Buddhist, we'll help you. If you're Muslim, we'll help you. If you're Jewish, we'll help you. We're here to share the love of Christ with everybody. So, um, not to bash them too much, but the Satanists I might have a little bit of issue with, but that's where we stand with that. So, personal development focuses on so many areas, and Jessica can probably elaborate more than I can in those that area of expert with her area of expertise. But we do faith-based recovery, peer support, trauma. We have a trauma specialist. We do life coaching, mental health, physical health, and that's pretty much it for personal development. The next pillar is what a lot of people struggle with in addition to mental health challenges or physical challenges, is financial challenges. So we have our program called Financial Education. Not very, not a very creative program name, I know, but that's what we stuck with. And we do budgeting, financial security, estate planning, emergency fund, debt management, cash flow, investment planning, and all that stuff for that. And really I should have spoke. Let me back up a little bit. On the personal development team, we have like so many excellent um, professionals that provide coaching to our clients. That we have two clinicians, a life coach, a dietitian, you know, a peer support professional, and than our pastor. So, and within Combat Connect, we have two additional pastors. One's a active duty chaplain in the Army, and the other one's a retired Army chaplain. So, uh, us having like three pastors essentially on the staff, you can kind of see that where our values are, right? And then the next, and then back to financial education. The we have only two coaches on that team, and they are exceptional. They're FINRA. Don't ask me what it stands for. I think Financial Regulatory Agency, if I'm not mistaken, which is the national, essentially accreditation organization for financial matters for regulations and that kind of stuff. And they're like Series 6, 63, 65, and 7, which that's a lot of information, I know, but um, they just have a wealth of knowledge, and they also are insurance um, agents for various states too. Our next area is career enhancement, where we provide one resume, fully, um, you know, uh, fully adjusted to the client and what their needs are, and what their goals are, right? Because you can write for one person, you could have 20 resumes for 40 organizations. So, um, we provide one resume for them for free, but we also have a great alliance with the organization called Resume Your Way, and they're not paying me to say this, but they provide our clients with um, really nice discounts. Uh, the next area um, we have a skills assessment. We do networking, interview skills, leadership development. We have a weekly leadership development workshop. Um, Social media like LinkedIn guidance and navigation, and lastly, which this area which I wish I had this area when I started, and I wish Combat Connect existed for myself. But lastly, for career enhancement is entrepreneurship. So then, lastly, I'm finally there. Jessica is Jessica's team, advocacy, and our advocates are essentially, don't kill me, Jessica, for saying this, but they're essentially case managers, and I um assist the team with case management as well. Um, and our advocates, our advocacy team provides resource management navigation to organizations, as I mentioned earlier, outside of our organic services at Combat Connect, whether it be for a unhoused individual, veteran, or someone that needs a food pantry, SNAP benefits, disability navigation, trying to get VA disability, or um, the Social Security, SSI, disability, um, legal matters, and and whatever else we can do to provide those resources to our clients so that they do have a fulfilling and prosperous life while maintaining um peace within themselves. So
Absolutely.
that's all of our services. That was a long answer too, right?
That's great. The the transition period I feel like is especially difficult for
I think we lost you, Manny.
military members. A lot of time telling you exactly what to do, essentially exactly what to think. What's up?
Manny, we
All good?
lost you for the last 5 seconds, so
Oh,
you're gonna have to
no worries.
repeat everything that you said like after I talked.
All good. So, transitioning out of the military is a particularly difficult time period. A lot of times, veterans, they go from a situation where there's a very clear, they're essentially told what to think, what to do. Every part of their day is essentially scheduled out. And going from that to the civilian sector, one of the hardest things is there is then an almost an infinite amount of possibilities. Like there's so many options that that feeling causes then anxiety. Jessica, can you discuss a little bit as far as your mindset on people when they are transitioning out of, and not just the military, but any position where you've got a full career, you've invested so much time into something and having such a massive shift.
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing a little bit on that?
Sure. So I see this in so many different opportunities that I get to show up in my professional world. And it's the what I would like to call the dissonance between like self-sacrifice and then self-ownership. And specifically within the Combat Connect organization, I meet with a lot of individuals who are adjusting, whether it's just like a vocational switch, they have had like this permanent scaffolding in place for so long. Their family system is kind of like a well-oiled machine based on all of this structure that's been determined for them. And like you mentioned, there's this overwhelm of you can now write the narrative, you can change it, and you can actually believe in something different that you might want for this next chapter of your life. So I think it starts with, the self-efficacy that you are not just glued to what you once were or how you once showed up and presented in your life, but you can have the courage to rewrite and start something new. And that's pretty tough for a lot of individuals. I think that's where the advocacy team truly thrives in um, completing these needs assessments that are so specific to the individual. Where do you want to make changes? What does that change look like? And then empowering not my vision for what they need or what would be best for them or where they might fit in best in the next chapter, but what does self agency look like? And what do you want to create with this time and this, you know, opportunity to exist in a new way?
That's one of the things that I find so powerful about the Combat Connect vehicle is because there are so many services, it truly is a one-stop shop in which you have the mental health aspect of understanding where you're at in that time period of your life. You understand kind of planning out what the next part's going to look like with assistance for career, financial, assistance based off of where you are physically at that time. That's huge. If someone is in New Mexico, they might be suffering the same problem as someone in Washington, but there's no way to actually connect and find that solution. Chris, when it comes to Combat Connect services, do you find is it better that people view it as like a pipeline, like you kind of go through one pillar to the next, or is it more of a these are my problems, help me kind of situation?
It would be the latter of the two, Manny. There's, when a client usually comes to us, they're going through a hard spot in life. Um, we haven't tackled many service members who are having an easy transition from the veteran or from the military to the civilian side of the house. So, um, like 95% of our clients are struggling, and um, we're here to provide them support in all the areas, and all the services that I mentioned at the same time. Now, as the chief programs officer, again, it's my responsibility to make sure that our clients are provided the best in-class services that we can, and to lead the coaches and advocates to achieve the mission, vision, and values of Combat Connect. So, uh, one thing that I stress to our team, and we have out of the 58 folks in the organization, we have approximately, I would say 20 coaches, um, maybe 25 tops. And I coordinate with the directors to make sure that our clients are not overwhelmed by the coaches where, the coach is trying to have a session with them like, every day of the week. So we do try to have a few days in between our sessions, whether it be a personal development, um, life coaching session or faith-based session, a couple of days until we have a career development session, and then a couple of days into the financial education session. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And do you feel like you have an ideal client? Is it best to catch them during the transition phase so that way it's easier to get them to the next stage? Or is it kind of anywhere they're at in life, you'll just do your best to meet them where they are?
So,
Again, the second of the two is where we're at. We handle people that are next to being in crises or crises. Is that right, Jessica? Did I say that right? And we attack their problems from where they're at in life. Now, I could say that the ideal point to attack the client's life is, for lack of better terminology, is to um mitigate all of that crisis or mental health stuff that they're going through. And we focus on um many groups on LinkedIn that are about transition and active duty Department of Defense branches, whether it be the Marines or the Space Force, it doesn't matter. Um, we are here to provide services for any veteran, any emergency services folks, and any of their immediate family. But um, again, not to beat a dead horse, it would be so much more fortuitous to be a part of that service member's life, as like 6 months prior to them being discharged or retiring. Really, does that make
Yeah, no,
sense?
that absolutely. Yeah. So instead of them going out, and then at that point where there's no kind of safety net, they're not getting a paycheck. They might still be getting TRICARE, so they're still covered with their health benefits for a little bit. But outside of that, they're not. They're kind of free and clear of the military, but with that, they're no longer protected by the military either.
right?
Jessica, oh,
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. No, I was just gonna ask Jessica if she wanted to chime in there since she deals with more clients than I probably do. Jessica, do you have an ideal client?
So my idea of a client is anybody that's willing to sort of like embrace this courageous journey with us to a rebirth of where they from where they are to where they want to be. So it's phenomenal if we can speak with individuals prior to transitioning from either a first responder career or a military career, because then, of course, we can get ahead of the game. We can tap into our strategic alliances and provide them with a lot more, I guess, um, responsive support rather than reactionary support. When we meet with somebody who's struggling a bit more, has isolated a bit more, they're in deep, and we welcome that as well. We want to make sure that we can obviously meet them in their pain and hold that space for them and walk alongside um, the changes that need to exist in their life. So from the perspective of the advocacy team, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey. We are certainly able and ready to serve you, and we welcome you.
That's fantastic. I really love the concept that you put out there as far as rebirth, because I really do think that is kind of what it is. It's a completely different season of your life. And no matter where you're at in that season, whether it's a good season or a low point in that season, it's still a transition. Tomorrow can be completely different from yesterday, and that's based off the actions that you take today. And I love that mentality.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Jessica, when it comes to the military and first responders. First off, I feel like civilians and even service members themselves don't realize how wide the spectrum is. You've got your people that are in office and they take care of the admin, the clerical work. You have people that are out day to day that are actually doing the door knocking, boots on ground. You have people that, as a police officer or is a first responder, where you see trauma a block away from your own home. Like there's such a massive spectrum of how people experience their careers individually. What is it like when it comes to you trying to meet them where they're at? Like, is there kind of a different protocol you use or a different, you know, techniques that you utilize?
So I think that the most important, that's such a really great question. Let me start there because everybody has a point of entry with a service, with their service delivery. I believe that um, our point of entry is something that we really have put a lot of time and emphasis in. I can really credit our director of advocacy, Christian, with hearing the clinical perspective, but also knowing the lived experience perspective. And our collaboration has arrived at this place that we're comfortably situated in and not willing to really shift, is that you cannot advocate for someone that you don't see as a whole, right? So you talk about this diversity that exists in everybody's experience. What There's a perspective bias to everybody's own life, what they experience, how they experience it, what they process, what resonates from those different challenges or successes or their family system, whatever that may be. So I really believe that like advocacy within this organization is slightly different in that it's not an overused word, right? Everything we do is a warm transfer. Everything that we do is a client-centered approach with our expertise backing it. And we're working alongside with these individuals. So in real time, where are you at? What are you experiencing? I could have somebody that's come to me and they've, have a lot of combat trauma and they don't want to present in certain situations. They don't want to tap into certain labels, or they're not ready for mental health services, but they're struggling with that mental health challenge. And it's being able to see these individuals as such and making sure that we honor their experience while also giving them the best support that we can for exactly what their goals look like. And that's not always an easy process identifying those goals, right? Because that challenges perspective sometimes. I think we pride on our advocacy team, we pride ourselves in respecting agency. You'll hear me often say autonomy, agency, because that I believe that's the cornerstone of really the true changes that people want to feel and experience in their life is the ownership piece.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of depth to that because, like you said, perception is everything. Like the way people perceive day-to-day life is completely different. Like we all live in the same world, but the perception makes our worldview completely different from each other. So having that mentality of just accepting people wholly as where they're at, I think is huge when it comes to trying to help someone out from where they're at. That rebirth mindset.
Yeah, I was
When
just sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, if you're seeing somebody's challenge as um a separation of who they are, you aren't really able to like connect the pieces. Yes, they may have a specific set of behaviors or experiences or difficulties. And in certain times and in certain settings, it's great to separate those pieces from the individual. But when you're looking at this rebirth and this concept that we have, you've got to be able to like honor every piece of it. We're not asking you to sanitize any part of yourself to receive these supports.
Gotcha. So they can show up as they are, be accepted as they are, be met where they're at, and then
Yeah.
from there help them out. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. Just to piggyback off that, Benny, I'm sorry, man. I wanted to tell the audience that we are pretty what makes us unique from other organizations that are out there. And I'm not going to mention them because that would be a disservice to the veteran community. But there are organizations out there that kind of um, don't provide services to all of the veteran community. So um, there are there's some organizations out there that only see post 9/11 veterans,
Mm.
such as yourself and myself. And but like who does the Vietnam veterans go to for help, And that's probably one of the hardest veteran communities to try to help because they're treated so poorly when they return home from like serious combat. And then also what makes us unique is that we see clients that have any type of discharge unless they um did something egregious. Uh, we take on clients that have dishonorable discharges because they've gone through a hard time. Um, yeah, I understand what they did in the past was probably not the best decision to make, and that's kind of how they landed to where they're at when they were discharged. But they need help too, and there are so many organizations out there that require you to have an honorable discharge. Not even a general will be applicable to the qualifications or criteria for being onboarded as a client with those organizations. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important factor that does make Combat Connect unique and is important to share. You're absolutely right. Different wars, different time periods, and then in this situation, even the discharge. If you have an honorable, less than honorable, dishonorable discharge, MedSep, like you're absolutely right. Where different organizations, different nonprofits, they do have their own policies and procedures, and not everyone will always get in. So it's very, very important that I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's great that you guys do that because kind of like part of that meeting someone where they're at, everyone lived a different life until that point. And just because they hit that point doesn't mean that they can't turn a new leaf, doesn't mean that that single mistake has to then carry them the rest of their life. It's very similar to like people getting out of prison. Like the whole point was that they did their time. You got out of the military, you took your lashings, like you took that hit, And now you should be able to go out into the world and, deal with things as they are where you're at. So I really, really like that. That's a major point there.
Absolutely.
Uh, Jessica, real quick, there's a lot of different types of counseling, group, one-on-one, crisis. Like, what what level of mindset should someone have when they try reaching out to the advocacy group? For example, should someone with suicidal ideations or someone who's like at that level where they're at the cusp that maybe they have the mentality, they have a way to do it. That's a really big one when it comes to identifying someone in a risk area. Um, and then, like, is it okay for them to reach out to Combat Connect, or is it better, like, if you guys take them, would you then put them to like a crisis management line kind of situation?
Sure. So there's not a veteran or a first responder that we're going to say, hey, don't reach out to us, right? If we're the person that you're comfortable or the organization that you're comfortable reaching out to, we definitely are going to show up and meet you in that. Are we going to ensure that your safety comes first and that, if you need crisis stabilization or immediate intervention, yes, we're going to work with you to secure that and ensure that you are immediately given the appropriate supports, whether that be connecting you with someone in our mental health services who has clinical protocol that they can, you know, make the appropriate assessments and get you what you need immediately, or whether that's us connecting you to, even law enforcement services or a crisis response team. We're going to make sure in every situation that we're meeting that need. And we would prefer 100% of the time that you give us the opportunity to meet you in that moment rather than try to isolate and, white knuckle through it. So our currency is connection, right? And that's I feel like that is the difference. I've had the opportunity to work alongside many organizations serving many populations, veterans, first responders, and I think the difference here is that the emphasis is on the relationship building. And in moments of crisis, that might be one of the most important components to consider. So thank you for that question. It's hugely significant.
Absolutely. And then, Chris, I'm going to hit you with the next one here. I love ending the podcast by asking individuals for a tip, a trick, a piece of advice, something that you think would help people. You have a very significant background, both in the mental health space that you've had to deal with personally, with your own career and kind of the difficulty with that. If someone else is going through a similar situation, what would you tell them?
That's a great question, Manny. If if you don't mind, I would like Jessica to add on after I tell you my perspective. But my biggest thing is people are going through when people are going through these challenging situations, to have your own personal faith be a part of who you are and get grounded and um whether it be taking your shoes off and walking in the grass or going to the beach and being with the ocean or you know um having that time where you're in that spiritual moment in your life, meditation, breathing techniques, the all that kind of stuff. Of course, me personally, Christ is the center of my life, and um, Christ is the center of Combat Connect. And I will encourage people if they do not have a faith that there's this guy that I know named Jesus Christ that is there for you no matter what you've done, and no matter um, what's gonna happen to you. That God has a plan for you, and that you're special, uh, no matter what has happened. And even if you know, unfortunately, even if death is knocking at the door and you're going through a really, really hard place in life, having the knowledge that, you know, you go into heaven should give you a little bit of peace. And, um, you know, in my perspective, knowing that I'll see my friends and family after this life is important for me personally. In addition to that, I would say never give up. Um, it's never too late to change. Uh, you can always, every day is a new day. Even though I might have been, um, I've had three crises so far since 2020. Um, and even though I had a crisis one day and it may last for a couple of days, um, that following day, that first day that I don't have a crisis, that's the day to begin, right?
Mm.
Just give anything to add?
I want to take just a second and say I think it's like so significant and special that you're able to share and speak about your difficulties and your challenges, Christopher. A lot of people need to hear that kind of bravery. And that speaks to what I would leave um, really anybody with, listeners and people interested in services that they can receive from Combat Connect, or just a friend. And that's living authentically requires you to sort of unlearn and strip down everything that society wants you to conform to. And we wouldn't have so many societal challenges, right? If people could embrace the idea of authentic living. So I would say that radical self acceptance is this starting line for every individual. And that's what makes us all united. That once you're able to fully embrace and accept who you are, what you've been through, where you're at, what you want to do, what you fall short of, what you excel at, that's really the launch pad for attracting and building everything that you desire and confronting everything that you feel has held you back. So I guess that's my final statement is, you know, I hope that in some way, shape, or form, by hearing Christopher's story and hearing about the services and recognizing the challenges, just even with people in your own life that, may not be veterans or service providers, or I think mental health and challenges just in general, not even just mental health, financial health, the highs and lows of living, it doesn't discriminate. We're all individuals, and so there's really a need to embrace that type of thinking.
And
Thank
thank you, Jessica. And Manny, if you don't mind, before we end this podcast, can I have a shout out for a few of our exceptional alliances so I can share the news about their organizations too?
Absolutely. I was also gonna say, Chris, where can people reach out to you? Jessica, same for you. If they want to get in contact with Combat Connect, what's the website, social media? So go
Mhm.
ahead. You can absolutely shout out whoever you want, but go ahead and share your own stuff as well.
Sure. The best way to enroll in services as a client with Combat Connect is go to our webpage where there's a very simple um, CRM, customer um, retention program or whatever they call it. Man,
Relationship management.
thank you. I appreciate that. Can we edit that? No, I'm just kidding. Um, um, to fill out the CRM and it will notify me and a few in the advocacy team of being um enrolled or wanting enrollment into the program, or at least getting additional information about what programs we offer. Again, that's combatconnect.org. And then I'm gonna put my phone number out there for everybody to know, in case there's anybody that needs a person to talk to. The Combat Connect phone number, which is my phone number, is 302-212-0327. Again, 302-212-0327. Please follow us on LinkedIn, um, which is the our most active resource or most active social media. Um, and we also have Twitter, Facebook, of course, and Instagram. So I'd like to give a shout out to our alliances, are going in order of um, who's been with us for a while is University of Massachusetts Global, who provides a discount for clients and connectors on their tuition. I'm not going to publicize the discount, but for anybody in the audience who's interested in being a client, they will extend their discount to them, and I will be more than happy to talk to that client one on one. The next um, resource I wanted to put out there is a pretty awesome organization called Shield of Odin, which provides nexus letters and um, assessments, medical assessments for our veterans that need to increase their Veterans Affairs, their VA disability rate. And then um, if anybody needs a good email address that's more professional, I want to send a shout out to the Veterans Email or VE. Um, which is run by a former officer named Brace. Awesome guy. And lastly, if you're looking for a job, this is my last one, Manny, I promise. Um, Valiant Staffing, I'm really happy to have an official alliance with them that will allow our clients who are seeking their next career in life to go ahead and move along in that area. So thank you for so
Awesome.
much. Really appreciate your time today, Manny. Exceptional work, as usual, Jessica. And what back to you, Manny.
Jessica, would you like to shout out your social media or any way for anyone to connect with you for any follow-up questions or inquiries for your business?
Sure. So, I'm JM Advocacy and Consulting. We're on LinkedIn. We do zero advertising. We're all word of mouth. Our presence is just on LinkedIn for professional connection. But if you have any needs for education, advocacy, or even business development, strategizing, we do specialize in those areas as well.
Awesome. Doc, Jessica, thank you both so much for coming in. I'm so happy we were able to catch up here, talk about Combat Connect. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story. Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge. And if you stuck with us this long, I truly appreciate it. Have a great one.
Nice,
Take
Manny.
care.
I want to give a shout out to Omni as well, Omni HR.